Okay, so we'll be making chunky knit pumpkins today. As you can see, they come in different shapes and sizes. We're going to be using 10 cast on loops and making a small to medium sized pumpkin, but if you're looking to make a little bit of a larger one, you can do 15. A smaller one, like the yellow one there, would be about 8, and then the orange one would be 15. So we're gonna do kind of somewhere in the middle. Okay, so to start, we'll be starting like we would making a blanket. You have your skein off to the right and your working yarn right in front of you. You will pinch the yarn, twist it over itself to make a loop, and then you will take the working yarn, thread it through the back of the loop, and pull. If it's a little bit large, you will know because you can put 2 fingers in it. If it seems like you could be a little more snug with those 2 fingers, make it just a little bit smaller. Should be definitely smaller loops than the blanket. So once you've done that, we're going to make 10 of these. So again, just loop your yarn over itself to make a loop. Take the working yarn, thread it through the back. Facing out, out, and pull. Loop, press through the back, and pull. Are you getting like a nice close up? Loop, bring through the back, and pull. Okay, so now I have 10 slip knots. What you're going to do is put these in the shape of, it's gonna almost look like a sunflower, so it's gonna be a circular shape, and the tail can be right here in the middle. What we're going to do is connect these 2 ends. So how we're going to do that is you will just reach down through this first loop here, pinch the working yarn, pull a loop up and through, come over to this next one, do the same thing. Reach down through the loop, pinch the working yarn, pull it up and through. Down through the yarn, loop, pinch the working yarn, pull it up and through. And you just continue that on until your pumpkin reaches your ideal height. Kind of know you're starting a new row when you go back to where this first slip knot is with this little tail. So this, I'm starting on row 3. It doesn't really matter to keep track of the rows, but I would recommend when you get to the 5th-ish row, it doesn't have to be exact, to kind of reassess, maybe fold your pumpkin in half so you can kind of get a good look at it, and then we can sort of start the cinching process for the bottom. So I'm gonna go around one more time and then do that. So here I go. And I should have said to you at the beginning, your first slip knot, you want a bit of a tail so that you have room to cinch. I would recommend having like a foot to work with. Okay, so we'll call this my 5th row, even if it's not exactly my 5th. And then you're going to kind of hold it up, take a good look at it. You can sort of fold it on top of itself, and you can see these beautiful braids. This is your, of course, your knitting. And then what we'll do from here is you'll take the slip knot from the first row, and we're just going to start cinching this bottom. So unlike the top, at the top when we cinch it, there will be loops sticking out and it's a lot easier. But for this part, we're just going to find bottoms of your stitching to go through, and you're just going to loop the tail through. So I'm going to reach in every single loop that I see, reach it through and pull, reach it through and pull. And if you're a little bit confused about where to pull in, don't worry, you can't really do this incorrectly. You're kind of just pulling through the bottom of the stitching as best you can. And then once you've done a few, maybe 3 or 4, you're going to reach back and sort of just pull it tight in order to cinch it. So pull it through, pull it through, pull it through. So I've done 3 there. I'm going to kind of cinch it, and you can see the bottom is cinching. And then once you've gone through all of them, just pull it really tight. And we're just going to leave it like that for now. We can fill in that hole at the end, but this is just going to give you sort of an idea of how tall your pumpkin is going to be. So once you've done that, come back to your folded, it's going to look like a little taco now, and just make sure all of your loops are sort of sticking up on top. So go ahead and give them like a little pull just so they are a bit more visible to you. You want to avoid having that connecting strand becoming visible. So to avoid that, you want to just pull the loops tight to pick up all of the slack. And then just kind of find out where you left off. So my tail's coming out of this bottom of this loop. So I'm just going to go right over here to the next loop and just continue. So reach down into the loop, pinch the working yarn, pull a loop through. And remember to stay really tight with these. The looser you get, the more you will be able to see the stuffing poking through. So you want it to be very, very tight. And if you've ever seemed to kind of lose your loops, just look at your taco, which now sort of looks like more like a bowl, and just kind of search for those loops and pull them upright, and that will, if they're kind of down like that, that will just sort of give you more direction of where you're reaching towards. Like this one's kind of hidden down here, so I'm just going to go ahead and guide it upwards. And you could do a super tall, skinny pumpkin, or you could do wide and fatter pumpkin. It's really just what kind of dimensions you're looking for. You could do kind of combinations if you're making several pumpkins. But I'm coming up to the end of my, I believe this was about a half a skein here. So I'm probably gonna go through just one more loop around. And this is starting to look exactly like the size pumpkin I was going for. So you can hold it up and you can just imagine that this were stuffed, and that will kind of give you an idea of the height. So I'm going to go back and try to kind of end at the beginning, but it really does not matter if you don't make it full circle. You just want to be sure that you have a foot of yarn approximately to do that cinching on top. So let's see, I'm going to do 3 more loops here, and then I think that will be good. So that looks like a good height for my pumpkin. And now is the fun part. So I'm going to just first go over and just kind of make sure that these loops are sticking straight up so I don't lose them at any point. And then you get to grab your stuffing and have a little fun. So kind of make your little bowl here. It's okay if it doesn't stick straight up. You'll grab some of your filler, your stuffing, and what's important in doing this is you want to kind of break it apart and fluff it up. So just break it apart as much as you can. This will just make your pumpkin a little more flexible, forgiving, and easy to shape the way that you want it to. If you just go ahead and stuff the bottom, it may not kind of give you that wide shape, and it might just sort of stick right up. So just take your time with it. I'll probably move a little fast just for the sake of the video, but go ahead and take your time sort of pulling all of that stuffing apart, really filling out the bottom of your pumpkin. You can't really have enough stuffing. I guess you can, but don't go light with it. Stuff as much as you can in there. And as you're doing this, you can kind of check in, hold it to the side, make sure it is kind of going in the shape that you want it to, because if you don't put stuffing enough in one area, it might sort of look like it's leaning a little bit. But the fun thing about this craft and the fact that we're making pumpkins is that no pumpkin is perfect. They're all unique shapes and sizes, and they're all gonna kind of be a little funky in one way or another. So if it's not perfectly stuffed, that's okay, because that's realistic. Okay, so once I've done that, you're going to take your tail, and same thing you did at the bottom. This is a little bit easier because we have these beautiful loops that we're going through. We don't have to kind of just eyeball the bottom of the stitching like we did at the bottom. So you're just going to take your tail, and instead of pulling loops through like we had been, you're just going to string all of these through every single loop. So I'm going to take my tail, place it through the first loop, pull all the way through. Take my tail, place it through the second loop, all the way through. So again, I'm going to do maybe 3 or 4, and then I'm going to start cinching. So that was 3. Here's my 4th, and I'm going to start to cinch. Oops, did I skip one? That's okay, we'll get it on the way back. And it doesn't really matter if you go from, so I'm just because in blankets we teach to reach down through the loop and pull it out, but if you do it the opposite way and push through, that's fine too. But I always reach into the loop, pinch, and pull up and through. So that's what I'm doing here. Okay, so I've done a few more. I'm going to cinch. Actually, I did not miss a loop. I just haven't cinched it tight enough. There we go. Okay, so I have one more here. I think that loop came undone. There we go. And then I'm going to just tighten it. There we go. And then that's pretty much the idea. You can either take scissors and cut this a little bit short, or just go ahead and snap it with your fingers. And then just tie a nice knot. And stick it in. Then same with the bottom. You can tie tight knot. Stick it in. And that completes your pumpkin. Now, of course, you can take a stem, stick your stem in, and there's your little pumpkin. Feel free to kind of spend some time shaping it. I like to reach into the stitching and actually pinch with my fingers the stuffing and sort of pull it out a little bit to make it more full. And just play around with it until it's how you want it. And you can either use the bottom or the top, whichever part you think kind of came out clearer. I'm going to use the bottom here because it fits my stem better. And there is your cute little pumpkin. Enjoy!